This is Optimus Prime, and you're listening to All Things Transformers.
Hello and welcome to All Things Transformers. I'm your host Steve Megatron Phillips, and in this episode I am joined by nobody. I decided to do another episode, just kind of keeping up the momentum here. Have you ever noticed that every Transformers site right now that you go to, doesn't matter which one, whether it's Cybertron, T-Formers, TFW, any of them, none of them have any, actual news. They're all the same articles. They're all covering the toys. They're all covering the comics. And then there's, a little bit of, movie news, and then there's, nothing. It's all the same stuff. And I was trying to figure out what to talk about and to kind of scour through the land of Transformers, and there's really not anything. To be honest, there's really nothing that's worth checking out right now in the Transformers world. And I always swore if there was a time like this, I would not do an episode. But I think that this is kind of like a problem with franchises. If there's not an ongoing series, if there's not something to talk about in the shows, if there's not just anything that's kind of ongoing, and you're left to the merchandising, it's not really a good place to be. And I say that with respect to the franchise, but everybody's kind of wasting everybody's time trying to put hits on their websites, and it's not. I mean, unless you want to see these pictures of some of these new toys and you want to read some of the stuff with the comics, honestly, if I cared about the comics, I'd go buy the comic. And I get some of it's going to get covered because, it's just something to put on the website. It's, kind of goes into the gallery, kind of goes into the stuff like that. So I get it. I used to run a Transformers website. It was way too much work to sit there and try and put filler on the website instead of just putting stuff that's pertinent, like the Transformers history, the timeline, where stuff takes place, character bios, actually important things that have to do with the franchise, as opposed to let's put a bunch of news articles and a couple of toys, and then we'll talk about the comics for an article, and then and then push it over to the comments section. Here you go. So, I know I'm just starting out very ripe today. I'm just kind of commenting on that. And we just had one of the New York Comic Con, I believe. And I'm sitting here going, yeah, this is interesting. There's nothing really going on, but yeah, it's kind of interesting. I know they just had TFCon DC recently, and David Kaye was there, a bunch of other people were there. I'm not quite sure who all was there. I would have loved to gone and meet David Kaye one of these days. I'm not sure when that'll happen. Just kind of depends on when they bounce around and stuff. But if TFCon ever comes to Michigan, I'll probably go. Because it'll be a hop, skip, and a jump for me. But New York Comic Con just happened between the 5th and the 8th, and there really wasn't anything too much Transformery news. There was a Hasbro panel, there was some screenshots. They had some exclusive figures of Grotesque, Terrorcons, Windcharger, Black Optimus Prime, or Rodimus Prime, which is Unicronimus Prime kind of thing, or Rodimus Unicronus, Scrapnel. There really wasn't anything Transformers related to even cover. They had some action figures because, we can't call them toys. Of the Last Night Allspark Tech figures, Roleplay Masks, Generations Triptychon, Power of the Primes, Dinobot Combiner, Volcanicus, Titan Class, Predacene teaser. Like I said, there really wasn't anything pertinent. They had some of the Prime Masters like Alpha Trion, Alchemist Prime, Vector Prime, Nemesis Hot Rod, Wind Charger, Scrapnel. Again, it's they're like $6 figures for the most part, unless you're talking about Rodimus Unicronus, which is $50, and then Wind Charger and Scrapnel are like $10. It like I said, it's not anything magnificent where it's just have to go check it out. It's as much as I like Transformers, there's just a lot of filler going on right now. So yeah, on the Transformers Autobots Alliance, which is the exhibit known as the Transformers Experience. There's been clips that have surfaced of the voice cast and look of CGI models of Primus that will be at the event. And then they have Charlie Adler doing Starscream, Frank Welker doing Megatron, Peter Cullen doing Prime. Then they have an orchestra doing the score, and then they have the Autobot Alliance. They have Primus circling around and kind of showing this whole thing to do with it. And then they've got Will Friedle doing Bumblebee, Jess Harnell, Ironhide, Amari Williams as Laserbeak. So yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting. And then the last night just had its disc home release, and it debuted at #1 in the United States. Go figure. Pretty much anything that comes out, though, that's action movie is going to hit kind of #1 as soon as it comes out, and then it kind of and just kind of disappears. Because Wonder Woman got bumped down to #2 spot, but remained in high demand, even though, like I said, it's just a week-to-week thing. Wonder Woman came out the week before, and it was #1. And then Transformers, debuted at #2 and then went up to #1, and then, or debuted at #1, and then it actually was a pretty solid movie compared to 2 and 4, which is funny because every odd movie in Transformers seems to be pretty decent. Still doesn't hold a candle to the original stuff, but that's neither here nor there. So Transformers Bumblebee set shots finally reveal who John Cena is playing. And it's funny because he has hair in this picture. Usually you don't see him with hair. And he's playing a character rumored to be a part of Sector 7. Alongside Haley Steinfeld and George Lendenborg Jr. Kind of reveals the Sector 7 crew and his character's name to be Burns. Whatever that means. Unless they're... It would be interesting if they're tying, and somebody made the reference that it's, Rescue Bots reference. It would be interesting if they tied Bumblebee, because Bumblebee is in Rescue Bots, if they made this like a live-action version of Rescue Bots, and some of these characters are tied with these characters, and Sector 7 is involved, and then they kind of lock up some of the stuff, or some of them are using the Transformers for their duty back then, but it was like hush-hush, only Sector 7 knew about it. And then Bumblebee eventually escapes. It would be kind of interesting if that's the route they went with it. And then of course there's a rumored Masterpiece movie figure of Barricade. I didn't even know they were making Masterpiece movie figures, unless that's what some of these have been years ago. And I can go neither here nor there. I want to see some Beast Wars Megatron, pronto, and more Masterpiece Beast Wars figures. So Cybertron.com decided to vote their top 5 best Transformers Beast Wars figures, or actually characters. They didn't even say figures. And they're saying that it wasn't much competition, and the only real discussion point would be why Beast Wars is better than G1 Sunbow. Beast Wars would trump G1 for sure. Had to cut the discussion right away and tell you why the characters Beast Wars had the best characters on TV, and then they give a breakdown, and then they had the depth charge Rampage rival of duking it out till their death, and they had the figures kind of going back and forth in a thing, kind of like a Batman Joker rivalry in a sense, with the different temperaments of the characters. So I can kind of get that. And then they had Rhinox. They said part of them wanted to put Rhinox at number 1 to make a statement, saying that he's the best Maximal character. I wouldn't go that far, but he was an interesting character. Put Black Arachne at number 3 because best female character of all time in the Transformers franchise, which that's obvious because she's kind of the most prominent aside from RC. But she was more fleshed out than RC in more of the ways than one. I'll leave that there. But yeah, Beast Wars just had better writing, so it kind of made a difference. And then they've got Megatron, Beast Wars at number 2. Agree to disagree, but they're saying that because he knows he's bad, loving every second of it, infectious to the viewer, loving his assurance, very seductive, succeeds in almost wants to see him succeed in plans that are marking him a perfect villain. Kind of reminds him of Hans Gruber and other villains with charisma. I can kind of get that. Megatron got darker as the series went on, so I think that he could have trumped it further. However, I do agree with their number 1 in this one piece alone. It says, unlike almost every other Transformers character, Dinobot, yes, Dinobot is number 1, doesn't seem to have a predetermined personality based on his allegiance. And he kind of, we see, that the second season that Predacons are not the same as Decepticons, and each thing has different values, ideals, whatnot. Megatron is very similar to Megatron, and Dinobot is not like hard-coded evil. Like, he could go either way depending on how he determines if it's honorable or not, or if depending on how much thought he puts into something. He chooses to be Maximal more so because he doesn't want to be a part of the Predacons and what they stand for, because they're dishonorable. And so that regard, I can kind of see that. I can kind of see how they broke that down. And it honestly makes a lot of sense. So who would your guys' top 5 be? Honestly, if I wasn't including Dinobot, I'd have Megatron as my number 1. I'd have Primal as number 2. I'd have Rat Trap in there as well because I really like his character. I think that he's sarcastic. However, he didn't really evolve all that much throughout the series, so I kind of get why they had him. I would still have Dinobot in my top 5 regardless. I like Depth Charge. There's a lot of great writing in Beast Wars. It's just hard to trump it. Even Beast Machines wasn't as well received or written as Beast Wars, and I think that's why it had the venomous hate that it had at the time. But yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think about it? I'm honestly like a little bit torn on a lot of the Transformers content anymore. I'm wanting to see what they do with this new series. I want to see if that rumor of the Beast Wars coming back with a Netflix animated thing actually pans out. I would love nothing more than that to happen. Just because I like Beast Wars more than I like the rest of the stuff. But yeah, I don't know. It's kind of hard to talk about some of that stuff like anymore. I don't find myself as infatuated with Transformers as I used to in all of its entirety. But Beast Wars, it still holds a spot deep down. And then, like, last month they had actually a comic writer and editor and Transformers scriptwriter who passed away. And I saw the name, but I kind of glossed over it, didn't really think nothing of it. But he wrote on... he was the creator of Wolverine and Swamp Thing, but I didn't realize that he wrote for X-Men, Watchmen, and he wrote on 4 different Transformers series, which I never noticed. He wrote on G1, Beast Wars, Beast Machines, and Robots in Disguise, the 2001. Some of the episodes he wrote, like Beast Wars wise, were like Web World, Tangled Web, and then Beast Wars or Beast Machines was Savage Noble. Then he had wrote those, and some of those were actually pretty decent. I really liked Savage Noble. Web World was G1, but that was an interesting one as well. Tangled Web, kind of creepy but good. So yeah, I can definitely see his influence now that I'm looking at that. So what are some toys that you guys want to see as they come out? I'm still hoping for the Masterpiece stuff. I'm still hoping for more Beast Wars screen accurate toys as well as Beast Machines. But what are you hoping that transpires in the new Transformers series? I'm kind of hoping that as they reboot this stuff, they bring a little bit of Beast Wars and they have those actors come back. They bring a little bit of Transformers G1 and then they have those actors come back. And then kind of create like a best of both worlds, like Transformers Universe type of show. I think that could be kind of interesting to watch. And I hope that the animation is CGI, but not this stuff that we've got in Transformers Red that's on right now. I would very much like to see them go back to not even Transformers Prime, but like something akin to Beast Wars. In that regard, I'm not 100% sold on returning to that aesthetic, even though I really like it still. But it's very dated, so I can see why they wouldn't go back to that. But I think that it could be fun to revisit some of those characters, even playing a prequel to Theft of the Golden Disc. Speaking of Theft of the Golden Disc, I know that thing came out years ago, but myself and another Transformers fan are going to cover that soon. I know we did it in Beast Unleashed, but think of this as an addendum that's going to be a part of this same Transformers feed. We're going to be doing a Beast Unleashed Part 2. And you could be asking, what? Beast Unleashed Part 2? Well, what essentially that's going to be is we're going to be reviewing Beast Wars 2 and Beast Wars Neo. Yes, you heard that right. We'll be covering that on this show. Kind of looking forward to doing it. Believe it or not, I've never watched them. I've seen the Beast Wars 2 movie where they summon Optimus Primal. Like Leo Convoy summons Optimus Primal, but I've never actually watched Beast Wars 2 or Beast Wars Neo. Which is funny because I used to be on TFCog quite often, and we did fan dubs of the series. I was involved in Scramble City, which was a fan project kind of bridging season 2 in the movie. And then I was involved in involved in Transformers Headmasters. So yeah, I'm still involved heavily with it, which is funny because it's been 12 years since I started messing with that. But TFCog only sadly made it up. They started production in 2006 of the stuff. They only made it through 5 episodes of Beast Wars 2, which I'm very sad about because I would have loved to have watched it dubbed over watching it subbed. And Beast Wars Neo, with Big Convoy, they only made it 11 episodes out of the 35. They started that in 2003. So I'm a little sad that they never made it further. But literally nobody is on that site anymore. It's a complete dead zone, which I'm very sad to see as far as the dubs. But yeah, so anyways, regardless of sub or dub, we'll be covering that on All Things Transformers in the future. So be sure to keep an eye out for that among the Transformers news, the comic reviews from TFT1 Mike that will be uploaded on this same feed, as well as the Transformers Origins with various people that have been influential in the Transformers fandom, among other things. We may have some other people join in the future. You never know. And maybe we'll get Stan Bush. Maybe we'll get some of these other people back in and have a different kind of, like a Transformers Origins for them. It could be kind of interesting. So yeah, until next time, transform and roll out and unleash the beast in you.
Yes. I wish to speak to my lawyer.